All right, so today we're going to deep dive into door-to-door seller interviews. And we've got a whole bunch of resources from RoleCatcher to help us out. Career guides, sample interview questions, even some tips on how we can use their AI to, really give us an edge here.
Yeah, it's interesting because, it's not just about knocking on doors, right? It's really about building relationships, turning neighborhoods into your marketplace. And as you get some experience, you can even be leading your own sales team.
That's where things get really cool. So we're going to cover those typical interview questions that, you can definitely expect. But we're also going to be sprinkling in some insights about how this role can really grow into something much bigger. So you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's start with a question that trips a lot of people up. Tell us about a time you faced rejection. It's a classic. Everyone hates it, but it's a gold mine for showcasing resilience. And resilience is key in door-to-door sales.
So how do you recommend tackling this one? Should you have a specific story ready to go?
Absolutely. Think of a time you faced rejection, ideally in a sales or customer-facing role. It doesn't have to be a massive failure, just a situation where you didn't get the outcome you hoped for.
And then what? Do you just tell the story and leave it there?
No, you frame it in a way that highlights your positive qualities. Explain what you learned from the experience, how you adapted your approach, and how it ultimately made you a better salesperson. RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you analyze your story here and see if it truly showcases resilience and problem solving. You know those key competencies hiring managers look for?
So it's not about dwelling on the negative. It's about how you turn that setback into a learning experience.
That's really smart. Okay, what about another common question? How do you build rapport with potential customers? This seems like it's all about that first impression,
Yeah.
making people feel comfortable.
Yes, but it goes beyond just a friendly smile. You need to show genuine interest in the customer, listen closely to their needs, and find ways to connect personally. It's about turning a stranger at the door into someone who feels heard and understood. Okay, so what are some strategies for building rapport that go beyond just like a handshake and a smile?
One effective technique is finding common ground. Maybe you notice something about their home, their garden, even a sports team logo. Use that as a springboard to start a conversation and build a connection. It's about showing you're a person who genuinely wants to connect, not just make a sale.
I like that. What about those trickier questions, like, can you describe a time when you had to handle a difficult customer while selling door to door? This one seems tough.
It is, but it's a chance to showcase your problem-solving and conflict resolution skills. Again, have a specific example ready. Focusing on a time you encountered a difficult customer, maybe someone who is angry, skeptical, or just not receptive.
To walk them through the situation, right?
You need to go beyond just describing what happened. Focus on the actions you took to resolve the conflict, the skills you used, and the positive outcome you achieved. Think about active listening, empathy, and finding solutions that work for both sides.
This is where practicing with RoleCatcher's AI could be really helpful. You can input your story and get feedback on how well it demonstrates your skills. Even fine-tune your delivery for maximum impact.
Exactly. Now let's move on to another question you might encounter. Can you tell us about a time you exceeded your sales targets when selling door to door? This one's all about showcasing your drive and your ability to get results.
So what's the key to nailing this question?
Again, it's about having a specific example ready. Think of a time you went above and beyond. Maybe you implemented a new strategy, tapped into a new market, or just put in the extra effort to connect with potential customers.
And then you explain the steps you took, the challenges you overcame, and the positive outcomes you achieved.
Precisely. Quantify your achievements whenever possible. Instead of saying, I increased sales, say, I increased sales by 20% in one quarter. Numbers speak volumes.
Okay, I see how that makes a much stronger impact.
Don't forget to highlight the skills you used, like persistence, persuasion, and negotiation. You're showcasing your track record of success and your ability to consistently exceed expectations. And guess what? RoleCatcher's AI can even help you with this.
Really? Tell me more.
You can input your achievements into the system and get feedback on how well they demonstrate goal orientation, results-drivenness, all those key competencies that make you stand out.
This is incredible. It's like having a personal coach in your pocket.
Speaking of coaching, let's shift gears for a moment and tap into the insights from the RoleCatcher Career Guide.
Perfect. We've talked a lot about acing the interview. But what about the actual career itself? What does it look like to climb the ladder in door-to-door sales?
It's a journey that starts with, of course, knocking on those doors, mastering product knowledge and learning to close deals. But as you gain experience, it evolves into strategy, leading teams, even collaborating with marketing to refine those offerings.
Okay, so let's rewind back to that entry-level stage. What are some must-have skills for those just starting out in door-to-door sales? This will be valuable for our listener as they prepare for their interview.
Absolutely. First and foremost, you need strong communication skills. You'll be interacting with people from all walks of life, so you need to be able to clearly and persuasively convey your message.
That makes sense. What else?
You'll also need to be highly organized and self-motivated. Door-to-door sales is a lot about managing your own time and setting your own goals.
So you're saying it takes a certain level of self-discipline and time management skills to thrive in this environment?
Exactly. And of course, you need to be resilient. You're going to face rejection, so it's important to be able to bounce back from setbacks and keep going.
That's a recurring theme we've heard throughout this conversation. Rejection is just part of the game, and it's about how you handle it that matters.
Absolutely. And as you progress in your career, you'll need to develop additional skills like leadership, strategic thinking, and the ability to analyze market trends.
It sounds like a dynamic and challenging career path with a lot of room for growth. But let's circle back to those interview questions for a moment. What are some other examples of questions our listeners should be prepared for?
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of door-to-door seller interviews. You're already on your way to becoming a pro at handling those tricky questions and understanding what this career path really entails.
We've talked about handling rejection, building a rapport, exceeding those sales targets, even those tough customers. But what about those questions that really get to the core of what it takes to thrive in this role? I'm talking about the mindset needed to succeed as a door-to-door seller.
That's a great point. A common question that digs into this is, how do you maintain a positive attitude and motivation when selling door-to-door, especially when facing constant rejection?
This one feels really important. It's easy to get discouraged when you're hearing no all day long.
It is. Interviewers want to see that you have strategies for staying positive, that you possess that inner drive. They're looking for resilience, self-motivation, and genuine passion for sales. It's not just about selling a product. It's about believing in what you're doing.
Okay, so what are some strategies our listener can use to showcase this kind of mindset during the interview?
Firstly, talk about setting realistic goals. Don't aim for unrealistic targets right off the bat. You need to show that you understand the importance of small wins. A successful conversation, a new lead, those are things to celebrate.
That's great advice. Breaking down big goals into smaller, achievable steps is a classic technique for staying motivated, no matter what you're doing.
Another key strategy is focusing on the positive aspects of the job. Why did you choose this career path? Maybe it's the flexibility or the earning potential, or even the satisfaction of making a difference in people's lives. Tap into those genuine motivations and express them authentically.
I love that. Sometimes we get so caught up in the day-to-day that we forget why we started in the first place.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to mention the importance of a support system. Talk about seeking support from your team or manager, sharing challenges and celebrating successes together. This showcases your understanding of teamwork and collaboration, which are crucial in any sales environment.
It's all about having a strong network, both for support and for learning from each other's experiences. Okay, so we talked about staying motivated, handling rejection, building rapport. What about closing skills? This seems like the make or break moment in any sales interaction.
You're right. Closing a sale is the culmination of all your efforts, and the interviewer will want to assess your ability to do it effectively. A question they might ask is, can you explain your process for closing a sale when selling door-to-door?
Okay, so how can our listener approach this question and really shine?
They need to showcase a clear, confident closing process. Firstly, reiterate the value proposition. Remind the customer of the key benefits they'll receive from your product or service. What problems does it solve for them? What needs does it meet?
So it's about emphasizing how your product or service fits into their life and makes things better for them.
Exactly. Then address any remaining objections. By this point, you should have a good understanding of their concerns. Provide clear, concise answers, offer solutions, and reassure them about their decision.
It's about building trust and confidence, showing them you've truly listened and understand their perspective.
Absolutely. Next, create a sense of urgency. Highlight limited time offers special promotions, or even the potential downsides of delaying a decision.
Okay, so you're gently nudging them towards a decision without being overly pushy or aggressive.
Precisely. And finally, don't be afraid to ask for the sale directly. Something simple like, would you like to proceed with the order? Or, are you ready to sign up today?
It's amazing how sometimes the most straightforward approach can be the most effective.
It is. And remember, closing is not about manipulation. It's about guiding the customer towards a decision that benefits both parties.
That's an important distinction. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier, using RoleCatcher's AI to practice. Can you elaborate on how this can help our listener prepare for questions about closing?
Absolutely. With RoleCatcher, you can actually simulate different closing scenarios and get AI-powered feedback on your persuasiveness, confidence, and ability to handle objections. It's like having a virtual practice partner to help you refine your technique.
Okay, so let's recap. We've covered some key questions related to mindset handling difficult customers and closing skills. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about another important aspect of interview preparation: research.
You're talking about researching the company, right? It's crucial. You need to understand their values, their products or services, their target market. All this information can help you tailor your answers and show genuine interest.
Exactly. But going beyond company research, I'm also thinking about researching the role itself. The RoleCatcher Career Guide mentions different stages in a door-to-door sales career, and I think understanding those nuances can be incredibly helpful in an interview.
You're absolutely right. Knowing the typical responsibilities and expectations at each level can give you an edge. It shows you're thinking long term, that you're not just looking for a job, but a career.
So let's dive into that career guide for a moment. What are some key insights our listener can glean from it to impress the interviewer?
One key takeaway is the emphasis on continuous learning. The door-to-door sales landscape is constantly evolving, with new products, sales techniques, and even technologies emerging all the time. You need to show that you're adaptable and eager to embrace new challenges.
So it's not just about what you know now, it's about your willingness to learn and grow with the industry.
Exactly. Another important insight is the value of networking. Building relationships with industry professionals can open doors to new opportunities and provide invaluable insights.
It's about expanding your network and leveraging those connections to gain knowledge and advance your career.
Precisely. And finally, the guide stresses the importance of developing leadership skills. As you progress in your career, you'll likely have opportunities to lead teams and mentor others. Show the interviewer that you're not afraid to take on leadership roles and that you have the potential to grow beyond individual sales.
It sounds like a dynamic and rewarding career path with a lot of room for both personal and professional growth. But let's circle back to those interview questions for a moment. What are some other examples of questions our listeners should be prepared for, especially ones that might seem unexpected?
One question that often catches people off guard is, what are your weaknesses? This isn't about listing all your flaws, it's about demonstrating self-awareness and a commitment to growth.
Okay, so how do you suggest tackling this one?
Choose a weakness that is relevant to the role, but that you are actively working to improve. For example, you could say, I sometimes struggle with public speaking, but I've recently joined Toastmasters to improve my skills.
So you're showing vulnerability, but also initiative and a desire to learn.
Exactly. Another unexpected question might be, what are your salary expectations? This can be tricky, but the key is to be prepared with research.
So know the typical salary range for someone with your experience level in this industry.
Yes, websites like Glassdoor and Salary.com can be helpful resources. And don't be afraid to negotiate, but always be respectful and professional.
It's about knowing your worth, but also being flexible and open to discussion. Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to touch on another crucial aspect of interview success: personal branding.
You mean how you present yourself both online and in person?
Exactly. In today's digital age, your online presence can make a big impact on potential employers.
Absolutely. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date and showcases your skills and experience relevant to door-to-door sales.
And what about personal presentation during the interview itself?
First impressions matter. Dress professionally, arrive on time, and maintain a positive and enthusiastic demeanor throughout the interview.
It's about showing that you're serious about the opportunity and that you're someone they would want to work with. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. We've delved deeper into interview questions, explored the career path, and even touched on personal branding.
We've equipped our listener with valuable insights and strategies to help them feel confident and prepared for their interview.
But wait, there's more. We'll be right back in part 3 to wrap up our deep dive into door-to-door seller interviews with some final tips and reflections. All right, welcome back. We've gone through interview questions, the career path, personal branding, and I think now it's time to touch on something that's just as important as all of that, and that's your mindset going into this thing.
Yeah, it's amazing how much your mindset influences not just what you say, but how you say it. You could have all the right answers, but if you're not projecting confidence and enthusiasm, It's just not going to resonate.
They're absolutely right.
Yep.
So for our listener who's gearing up for this interview, how can they really cultivate that winning mindset?
Well, an interview is a two-way street. It's not just about answering questions. It's about having a conversation, building rapport with the interviewer, and letting your passion for sales shine through.
I love that reframing. It takes some of the pressure off, right? It's not an interrogation, it's an opportunity to connect.
Exactly. So before you walk into that interview room, take a deep breath. Remind yourself of your strengths and visualize yourself succeeding.
Visualization is such a powerful tool. Athletes use it all the time to prepare for competition.
And it's just as effective in the business world. Imagine yourself walking into the room with confidence, answering questions with clarity and enthusiasm, and leaving the interviewer feeling impressed and excited about your potential.
It's almost like creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. And speaking of authenticity, you mentioned earlier the importance of being yourself during the interview. Can you elaborate on that?
Of course. In any interview, it's crucial to be genuine, but especially in sales, where building trust and relationships is paramount. Don't try to be someone you're not. Let your personality shine through and allow your enthusiasm for the role to speak for itself.
I think sometimes people get so caught up in trying to give the perfect answers that they lose sight of their own unique strengths and qualities.
That's why it's so important to prepare, but also to trust yourself and your abilities. And remember, the interviewer is not just looking for someone who can sell. They're looking for someone who is a good fit for the company culture. So don't be afraid to ask questions about the team, the work environment, and the company's values.
That shows you're not just interested in a job, but in being part of something bigger, a team that aligns with your own values and aspirations.
Exactly. And one final tip. After the interview, always send a thank you note to the interviewer.
This is such a simple gesture, but it can make a big difference.
It really can. A well-written thank you note shows appreciation for their time, reinforces your interest in the position, and keeps you top of mind as they make their decision.
It's all about those little touches that can set you apart from the competition. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into door-to-door seller interviews. We've tackled tricky questions, crafted compelling responses, explored the career path, and even leveraged the power of AI with RoleCatcher to gain a competitive edge.
And most importantly, we've emphasized the importance of mindset, confidence, and authenticity in making a lasting impression.
So as you head into your next door-to-door seller interview, remember all the tips and strategies we've discussed. Be prepared, be confident, be enthusiastic, and most importantly, be yourself.
And remember, with the right tools and the right mindset, you can turn any interview into an opportunity to shine.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive to Z.